All right, let's go on to the shutdown, and we're going to talk about, man, this was a dizzying turn of events. I brought some of you guys the news of that yesterday. If you want to go and watch the deals, just in general about what exactly happened. The TLDR is basically that a clean CR was passed with zero Ukraine aid. That has now sparked a massive drama here in Washington because Kevin McCarthy had to rely on Democratic votes to get this continuing resolution. He had 90-something Republicans actually vote against that continuing resolution before it was went ahead and sent to the Senate. This has led now Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is a leader against Kevin McCarthy and against the continuing resolution, to officially call for a motion to vacate against him. It will come sometime this week. He elaborated it a bit over the weekend. Let's take a listen.
Speaker McCarthy made an agreement with House conservatives in January, and since then he has been in brazen, repeated material breach of that agreement. This agreement that he made with Democrats to really blow past a lot of the spending guardrails we'd set up is a last straw. And then overnight I learned that Kevin McCarthy had a secret deal with Democrats on Ukraine. So as he was baiting Republicans to vote for a continuing resolution without Ukraine money, saying that we were going to jam the Senate on Ukraine, he then turns around and makes a secret deal. Now, I know you and I probably have different views on U.S. involvement in Ukraine, but however you think about that question, it should be subject to open review, analysis, and not some backroom deal.
So I do motion to vacate tomorrow?
I do intend to file a motion to vacate against Speaker McCarthy this week. I think we need to rip off the Band-Aid. I think we need to move on with new leadership that can be trustworthy.
So there it is. He says he will call for the motion to vacate. We're going to get to the Ukraine comment in a bit because that's not exactly the truth coming from Matt Gaetz. Kevin McCarthy then quickly responded. He was on CBS's Face the Nation. Here's what he had to say.
I want to start, though, on the news this morning from Congressman Matt Gaetz, who says he's going to seek a motion to vacate. He's going to try to oust you as Speaker of the House.
That's nothing new. He's tried to do that from the moment I ran for office. Look.
Well, this time he says he's going to keep going. May not get there before the 15th ballot, but it took 15 for Kevin McCarthy. He says he's coming for you. Can you survive?
Yes, I'll survive. You know, this is personal with Matt. Matt voted against the most conservative ability to protect our border, secure our border. He's more interested in securing TV interviews than doing something. He wanted to push us into a shutdown, even threatening his own district with all the military people there who would not be paid, only because he wants to take this motion. So be it, bring it on, let's get over with it, and let's start governing. If he's upset because he tried to push us in a shutdown and I made sure government didn't shut down, then let's have that fight.
Let's have that fight. So fighting words there. Let's go and put this up there on the screen. Just a bit flashback in terms of the Republicans who voted against Kevin McCarthy last time around. There were about 21 different members, including, and you can see them in front of you for those who are watching, Dan Bishop, Andy Biggs, Lowen Boebert, Ken Buck, Tim Burchett, Burleson, really ranges, mostly Freedom Caucus members. Many of them actually did vote against the continuing resolution. However, not all of these people are on record saying that they would support any motion to vacate. So it's a big question right now, Krystal, as to whether this is even going to come to pass. And the question and all of that is that how much of this is personal for Gaetz? How much of this is actually on policy, at least for some of the people who might join Gaetz? And then how much of this is just chaos is a ladder and trying to get to the top. And then, I mean, let's be honest, though, the vast majority of the House Republicans overwhelmingly not only support Kevin McCarthy, they are very angry at Gaetz for bringing us to the brink of a government shutdown. And you know, McCarthy does have a point, which is if you do like social spending cuts and all that stuff, they had a bill on the floor, which they defeated, which had 30% cuts to like the Social Security Administration food stamp program. It would have dramatically reduced discretionary spending, and it had no money for Ukraine, and they still voted against it. And what ended up passing was actually just, frankly, a 47-day extension of current government funding levels without any additional border funding, and the only quote-unquote win they had was on Ukraine money to even get it through them.
No, it's just like a clean resolution, which is what Democrats wanted from the beginning. And, you know, like you said, the one piece they didn't get is Ukraine aid, which they'll fight, you know, another day on, and we'll get that to that in a moment. But, you know, just to rewind of how we got here, you remember there was that whole big fight over whether or not Kevin McCarthy was going to be Speaker, and Matt Gaetz was one of the leaders of that charge against McCarthy. They make some final backroom deal, the details of which have never been made totally clear.
Correct.
But one of the pieces was that it would be very easy, that it would only take one member to bring this quote-unquote motion to vacate to the floor, which could remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. Couple problems. Number one, they've never had an alternative. I mean, this was the problem when they were initially trying to go up against Kevin McCarthy. They did not have an actual alternative like, this is our guy or this is our gal and this is who we're rallying behind. They'd put up someone different practically for every vote. So that continues to be an issue. On the other side, you know, Republicans have a very narrow margin here, 3-vote margin. So are Democrats going to vote for Kevin McCarthy to keep him in the speakership? If you have, you know, you only need a few people to defect with Matt Gaetz to deny McCarthy the majority that he would need in order to remain Speaker of the House. So are Democrats going to fill that gap? And it could be the case that some do and some don't. You had AOC, she was asked, you know, about whether she would vote to save Kevin McCarthy, and she was like, absolutely not. Why would I do that? Take a listen.
Do you think that there will be any Democrats that might vote to save McCarthy?
I mean, I certainly don't think that we would expect to see that unless there's a real conversation between the Republican and Democratic caucuses and Republican and Democratic leadership about what that would mean. But I don't think we give up votes for free.
And but would you vote to vacate? Would you vote to get rid of McCarthy as Speaker?
Would I cast that vote? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Kevin McCarthy is a very weak speaker. He clearly has lost control of his caucus. He has brought the United States and millions of Americans to the brink, waiting until the final hour to keep the government open, and even then only issuing a 45-day extension. So we're going to be right back in this place in November. And, you know, I think that our main priority has to be the American people and what's going to keep our governance in a cohesive and strong place. But unless Kevin McCarthy asks for a vote, again, I don't think we give something away for free.
So interesting there, Krystal, because she didn't say she would vote. Well, she's like, I would vote to vacate him, but, you know, we can also make a deal. You know, we'll see what sort of deal there is to be made. I don't know. I'm curious to see how it goes, especially because right now it's just Gaetz. He's the only one who said he would vote directly in order to oust him from speakership. Other people like Byron Donalds, Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene is very, you know, much a Kevin McCarthy ally. And look, if we actually think about it in terms of effectiveness, Gaetz, as I said, torpedoed a bill which allegedly did all the things that he wanted.
Right.
Marjorie has been playing ball. She is single-handedly responsible for making sure that that Ukraine aid is not in the bill. She was the one who fought for it all the way from day one. And you don't have to listen to me. Matt Gaetz is the one who said that, not me. So my point is that there is a, you know, at least some like merit to Marjorie Taylor Greene's alliance right now with Kevin McCarthy, because she's actually getting like real policy concessions. She's, you know, on very powerful committees and very influential, obviously, right now in terms of the House. So we'll see if they have to eventually make a deal. I think he's only got a 3-vote margin. Whenever it does come to the Republicans, he's going to rely on George Santos to try and to save him. Santos didn't play in ball, though, apparently. So interesting.
Under federal indictment, by the way,
federal indictment,
ongoing.
Of course, you know, still every vote counts. I'm curious. There's also some different procedural things that they could do to stop the actual motion. For example, Gaetz, right after the House had passed the continuing resolution, I think he was trying to make a different motion. I think he was trying to do a motion to vacate right there, then on the floor.
Oh, boy.
And they refused to recognize him. And even though they made eye contact, whoever was chairing the House gavelled him out. It's like a tradition that you can pretend not to notice and gavel and officially adjourn. So there's a lot of different things people forget, that you can machinations behind the scenes to make sure that he doesn't get recognized. You can burn floor time. They're only, I think, in session for a couple of days this week. And then I know the Senate is going out. So there's still a lot left here in Washington to do.
So a few other things to add to the mix. I mean, number one, when we're thinking about a motion to vacate, which he says is imminent, and Democratic leaders are sending out memos to their caucus saying, hey, this could happen anytime. It could literally happen today. So they're sort of on notice for how this might all go down. But it's not like he can't do this more than once. So even if the first time around doesn't get much traction or fails or whatever, he can just keep doing this over and over and over again. And Matt Gaetz can be kind of relentless on this stuff. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I think another thing to keep in mind is how will the grassroots of the Republican base react to all of this? Are they going to be more on Gaetz' side? Are they going to be more on McCarthy's side? I actually think it's kind of undetermined right now because they see the way that Gaetz' strategy and tactics with regards to this potential government shutdown completely backfired and absolutely failed and left McCarthy with effectively no other option than to partner with Democrats and pass a clean CR. That was after Gaetz and co. voted down this very conservative spending bill.
Yes.
I think that McCarthy was like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I have no other option. So we're either going to do this 2 weeks from now after an ugly, painful government shutdown that we get blamed for, or we're just going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and do it now. And it seems like a lot of, Republican influencers online or whatever, that's how they see it, and they are not happy with Gaetz. Another thing to throw into the mix here is that there is talk of voting to expel Matt Gaetz altogether.
Yeah,
because he's under ethics investigation, and apparently that report is close to coming out. And so the word is, and the reporting suggests that if that has some significant findings, then they may vote to expel him altogether. But that's complicated too, because on the other hand, we've just mentioned George Santos. So you're going to vote to expel Matt Gaetz, but you're going to let George Santos, who's literally under federal indictment, has lied about like every aspect of his life to the American people and to voters, et cetera, to secure his place in office. You're going to let him go. How much sense does that make? And what do they have a 3-vote margin?
Yes.
So you can't be, tossing your members out, or you're going to lose control of the House altogether. So a lot of different factors here at play.
Yeah, Newt Gingrich actually said the effort to expel Matt Gaetz is destructive, irresponsible, and anti-Republican. However, expelling him from the Republican caucus and eliminating his committee assignments, that could be, that's something that he should be entitled to for, quote, his suicidal efforts to cripple the House GOP. So for even a guy like Newt to come out and say something like that, very interesting.
Well, Newt
is
saying Matt Gaetz is like a Democratic plant.
Yeah.
Because he's like, no one has done more to destroy conservative priorities than Matt Gaetz. And like I said, I saw other, Newt Gingrich is very sort of the old school, but I saw modern right-wing influencers online saying very similar things. So Matt Gaetz with this whole play did not exactly win the hearts and minds of the Republican base, which gives him a much weaker hand going into this motion to vacate. Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.